Welcome back and welcome into the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report with Otis Kirk. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Evan Kamiko. Otis, a lot to talk about following Arkansas's 56-13 loss yesterday against Notre Dame. The news came out earlier today. Sam Pittman relieved of his duties as head football coach at the University of Arkansas. Otis, your initial reactions. Let's jump right into it.
Well, I'm not surprised. You just knew they could not. In fact, I said last night they will not go to Tennessee with the with everything like it was yesterday. With this, it's either you knew either Pittman was going to get fired or some assistant. Maybe I mean, you think of Dan Enos a couple of years ago. He got axed, and that when the offense wasn't playing well, and so you figure somebody on defense, whether it's T. Will or someone else, but it turned out it was Pittman. And so yeah, Bobby will serve in there. My initial reaction was just no surprise. That last minute of the first half yesterday, I saw you right after that. That last minute of the first half. I mean, it's 28-13. It's a ball game, Evan. You're 28-13. I mean, Arkansas was struggling, but when you're within a couple of scores, it's not over with. But in the last minute, Notre Dame scored 14 points, and that's sealed. I think that right there knew something was not going to be the same when they go to Knoxville in 2 weeks, and so it's pretty evident that that was just the final straw yesterday. I mean, not surprised. I don't think anyone's surprised that Notre Dame won, but after they played Ole Miss right off the feet, and Ole Miss beat LSU yesterday, Heaven. So I think just the typical that final minute of the first half, and just overall the way they lost these games. I think I wrote last week or said on here, Arkansas was losing games this year just like they lost last year.
Yeah.
The fumble at the end of the Ole Miss game, fumble at the end of the Memphis game, and then yesterday, I guess you could say that was their Ole Miss game last year. The Notre Dame game yesterday, that was their Ole Miss game last year. So they're losing the same way they lost last year. So something had to change, Evan. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm not for anybody losing their job. I know people celebrate when coaches get fired. Look, man, these are human beings, but it's part of the business. They also make a lot more money than the average person, and they know that's part of the business when they sign up. So it's a two-way street. So I mean, I'm not going to get on here and cheer when somebody gets fired, but then again, like I said, they know it's part of the business. But you knew that was coming after yesterday. They just couldn't. It couldn't be status quo moving forward. I mean, buyouts, whatever. I know people are saying, well, you got to lose so many more games to lower the buyout, but I I had been told that that wasn't going to be the determining factor. That ideal situation, yeah, to wait till after the buyout lower, but turned out it wasn't. And but Bobby Petrino was the obvious choice. I don't think there was anybody else. I mean, at the first of the year, some people thought T. Will, if Sam got fired, T. Will might be, but the way the defense is playing, that's not a possible. That wasn't going to be a possible. So Bobby was the obvious choice,
Yeah.
and with his 4-year record here before, he deserves that chance. If somebody had to come in and be the coach the rest of the year, but he's got his work cut out for him. I'm telling you, man. I mean, I know
It's an
firing
uphill
Pittman.
battle, right?
I'm sorry, what?
I said it's an uphill battle, right? You're fighting now all the way to get
Oh,
back to relevancy in the SEC. We said it last week.
yeah,
I think you put it really well when you said it's the consistent issues that have been happening over the last couple of years that suggest, at the time, this was last week, so 7 days ago, that suggests that maybe it is on the head coach and it falls at the top. And it goes all the way back, right? You
yeah,
have a great year in year one under Sam Pittman. You go 9-3, 9-4. Win
yeah,
the Outback Bowl, beat a good Penn State team that year, need to
yeah.
remind you as
Oh,
well. And then you go to Dallas in that Texas A&M, the fumble by KJ Jefferson. I don't mean to go there, but that's where you started seeing it, and then that issue kept popping up. Then you had that 2023 season, which was downright horrendous in general. But Juracek said, okay, Sam's the guy. We believe in him. He can take the steps forward.
yeah.
That offseason, again, you fire Dan Enos in the middle of that year. Then you bring in Bobby Petrino, and you have to get an exception from the university to do so. Then 2024, you're seeing some of these same issues in one-score games, 7-19 in those games. And yes, again, to your point, you feel bad, right? We never want to see people get fired. We never want to see people lose their jobs. We don't root
Right.
for that. We
No,
root for
nobody.
these teams to have success and these kids to have success. But when you're seeing the consistent issues over and over again, like you mentioned last week, of these late-game fumbles, this poor execution down the stretch, you knew the rock bottom was going to hit at some point. right? Like you knew, okay, Ole Miss was bad, but you can salvage it if you go and win in Memphis. Memphis was bad. It kind of felt like their rock bottom was coming really soon. We didn't know when, whether it be before the bye week in this Notre Dame game, because let's be real, that was rock bottom, I think, of the Sam Pittman era. Is why we're no longer in the Sam Pittman era anymore as we move forward and onwards in this season. But you knew it was coming at some point. It's the mistakes that keep popping up. I think you could go down the list and name 15 games that we've seen this when you are 7-19 in one-score games.
Yeah, you've got. I mean, the year that Auburn won the national championship, I did a story on this, Evan, and I think they had 7 or 8 wins that year when they went undefeated, won the national one-score games. I think it was 8-point games, 8 or less, 8 or fewer points. I think they had 8 wins that year, won them all, and that's how you cannot go. You can't lose all your one-score games because I'm telling you, in the SEC, there's going to be a lot of one-score games. I don't care who's coaching. There's going to be a lot of one-score games. Yeah. It's just the way it is. Even the good teams, the Alabamas, Georgias, if people will go look at their records and look at their schedules and results, they'll see a lot of one-score games that they won in there. Yeah. And that's you can't lose them all. And basically, that's what Sam was doing. He was losing them all. You know, the 10 largest crowds they've had in Fayetteville. Yesterday was one of them. They're 2-8. They beat Tennessee twice. So if Tennessee's not lined up across the stadium there on the other side, Arkansas is going to lose. And just stuff like that. It all piled up, and it's not a surprise. I wasn't surprised. I mean, disappointed for Sam, but I mean, as I said, you get paid a lot more money to be a coach, and you know that that's part of the business when you sign up for it. So it is part of it. It's not like some guy making minimum wage gets fired. He doesn't know where his next meal is going to come from. So, you know, I don't mean to make it laughing joke, but I mean, it is. It's you know that's part of the business. And so I wasn't surprised. And I just knew yesterday. I told some people last night it will be – they will not go to Tennessee that way, and it will either be the head coach or it'll be an assistant like Dan Enos bit the bullet a couple of years ago. Either Sam was going to do that, or it would be Sam himself. Turns out it was Sam himself, and I think that.
Ask though, were you surprised that it was Sam? I would have thought that it would have been T. Will, right? The defenses looked bad. But Sam, at the end of the day, we give him credit. You got to give some credit to him. He was able to keep this team in games the first 3, those first 2 losses. Are you surprised that it was Sam over T. Will this early? Because at the end of the day, right, hear me out. And it doesn't matter who you're going to fire. Your roster's still the same. Everything is still the same.
Right.
So it doesn't, like, keeping T. Will still keeps the defensive problems, right? Those aren't just going to magically vanish because you fire Sam Pittman. Those wouldn't magically vanish because you fire Travis Williams. You're still going to have those problems because it is a roster construction and it is the way these guys have been coached so far. You're not going to break habits when you're, 5 weeks into the season already? What's established is established. So are you surprised at all that it did end up being Sam Pittman and he wasn't able to ride out the season over Travis Williams?
Yes, I was. Honestly, last night when I said that, I honestly thought it would be T. Will because, I mean, here's why. Because I don't mean to step on anybody's toes or anything, but look, the defense is not playing hard. They're not playing with any effort. And that reflects back on T. Will. And you said what I was getting ready to say. I don't care if you provoke Bobby Petrino or if you bring in Vince Lombardi. I mean, the defensive players that couldn't tackle haven't shown much effort to even want to tackle anybody. And I know some will disagree with that, but I just don't see the effort, Evan. A lot of tackling and a lot of playing defense is effort. I haven't seen it, and that's not going to disappear. If it does, then maybe Sam was the problem. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think it's stretch to think that defense is all of a sudden going to be great under Bobby with T. Will and because Sam's gone. I just think that's straight. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they go out there and dominate Tennessee. Yeah. I'm not against T. Will at all. I'm just saying, you asked me a question. I just don't see the defense play with much effort, much excitement. I mean, they arm tackle people instead of routing them. I just don't see if that's miraculously going to improve and change just because they fired Pittman. He wasn't tackling anyone. He wasn't missing any tackles. And the team may play harder. They may not play as hard without him. I don't know. But you'll probably see a difference there. But But a lot of the defense, I just don't see the defensive issues that they've had. And then we can go to offense. They've scored 10 points in the second half of the last 3 games combined. They're not exactly tearing it up on offense in the second half. That's got to be addressed. So,
Yeah.
and maybe Bobby being the head coach, maybe he can address that because Sam may have limited. I'm not saying he did, but Sam may have limited both Bobby and T. Will on what they could do. He was the head coach. He had a right to do that. And I don't know. I've heard that I've talked to some former players that played for him that felt like he was tying T. Will and more T. Will than Bobby, but both their hands some. So I've talked to some people, and if that's the case, you may see more improvement than we think. But we'll see if that was the case because I think we'll know pretty early in the Tennessee game if the effort's much better on defense and the second half of the Tennessee game, we'll see if the offense is kicking in. That maybe I don't know what I buy this. Some felt like he was tying Bobby's hands, maybe play not to lose instead of to win the second half, and that's why the offense. But I don't know if that's true. I'm not repeating that as fact. I'm just telling you what people have told me.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I'll believe all these miracle cures when I see it. And I'm gonna have to see it on the field against Tennessee. I don't care about the press conference where they all hype up everything and it's all great. Yeah. Everything's gonna be different. We hear that every year. And get out here, and like I said, the first 5 games been the same thing we saw last year. So, but I want to see it on the field. And we'll know beginning Tennessee, then A&M if it's different, and hopefully it is. I hope it is, Evan. I really do.
And I think fans hope it's going to be different, right? Because you made the point earlier when every time Arkansas Razorback fans pack Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium, the team doesn't show up, and it's half maddening unless it's Tennessee, right? Then the team shows up for some reason, but it's half maddening. But Otis, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking plenty about the future of this Arkansas Razorback program, head coaches who we think might be coming into Arkansas potentially, as well as what is this going to mean for the future of recruiting. More Arkansas football recruiting report with Otis Kirk comes back when we return. Welcome back to the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. Otis Kirk, Evan Camico hanging out with you on what has been a eventful Sunday. Sam Pittman is out. Now we're talking about the future, Otis, and specifically, let's talk about recruiting, because when a head coach leaves, the transfer portal does open up right away. So there is a chance we could potentially see exodus from football players immediately, but we're going to look way down the line and way to the future. How is this going to impact recruiting and these young high school guys who have committed to play for Sam Pittman now that Sam is gone? Where do you think this leaves the program?
Well, this is where they have got to get this next hire right. Here's why. Here's maybe what people had thought. Yes, there's a 30-day window opens up now for players to leave that's on the team. But more important than that even, and that's important, don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying that, Evan, but the early signing period now in December is used to you could work through January, and the first Wednesday in February you'd sign all your players. That early signing period, nearly everybody signs in that. So you're behind the 8 ball if you wait till after the season to hire somebody. Second, the transfer portal is probably just going to be a one-time deal now, and that's going to be in January.
Yeah.
So, they closed that second portal window. So, boy, you've got to get this next hire right, because if you don't, you're setting the program back God knows how many years. Because, with the portal open, with the early signing period and the portal going to a one-time deal, you cannot mess with coaches every year. You've got to get a coach, you've got to get a staff, you've got to hit it, and you've got to make it right. And if you don't, you're setting this program. You think it's set back now? But people think it's set back now with Sam. Wait till they see what happens. And I don't care who the head coach is. Whoever the head coach is, they've got to get it right, because if that coach has got to be the right hire, he's got to do well, and because they cannot be changing coaches every few years, because with the rules that's in place now, then maybe those rules change down the road. Maybe they do, but I wouldn't count on it. But I don't see the early signing period going anywhere. And then you've got the one-time portal. I don't see them ever going back to 2 portals.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't. So it's going to be very important to hire the right. If that's Bobby, that's great. If it's not Bobby, then make sure whoever it is, you make sure it's the right one. If you're a check, if he's the one making the hire. And so they've got to get this thing right. And it's more important, I think, now than ever, Evan, because of what I just went over about the rules.
Right. Yeah.
Not just counting, as you mentioned, the 30-day window here where people can leave. Current players can leave. But, boy, that early signing period in December, you can still sign them in February, but with all the good players, 90%, 95% of the good players are gone.
Yeah.
You're against the 8 ball there.
Yeah, it might be a long couple of months here when we're talking about football in Fayetteville. Maybe a long 12 to 18 months. And because next year 1, you're rebuilding a program from scratch. You know you're going to be, at the bottom of the SEC, and you've got to work your way up. The good news is, though, we've seen coaches around the country have the ability to change their team and change the perception of their team in a year. You look at Indiana last year, bringing in Kurt Signetti. All of a sudden, they go from the losingest program in college football to the emerging superpower of college football, to quote my Indiana Hoosier head coach. But it's really intriguing because you can get this turned around. I'm curious for you mentality-wise when it comes to the next head coach you bring in. What does that have to be that's different from the Sam Pittman era and the culture that Coach Pittman attempted to build here at Arkansas?
Well, I think the next head coach has got to be someone that's proven coach. Maybe not. I'm not saying he has to coach the Green Bay Packers, but Sam has never even been a coordinator except I think in a junior college or head coach in junior. But you've got to. I think they need to get a proven head coach, someone. If he's had experience in the SEC and it's been good experience, jump on that guy because there's not. It's hard, but but I think it's important to get a proven head coach, someone that's familiar. It's even more so now because whoever you hire, it's got to be a comfortable salesman because with the NIL, raising money, the transfer portal, it's just different than it used to be.
Yeah.
And I keep going back to that, but it's part of it, Evan. It just is. So I think it's very important that the next coach is able to embrace NIL, embrace the transfer portal, and make Arkansas better, like Coach Signetti did. I believe that's how you pronounce his name in Indiana, like he did the Hoosiers, because basically they were the laughing stock of the Big Ten up there. They were, and now they're an NBA program that any program would love to be in the shape they're in. And that's a short turnaround, so it can be done. That's a perfect example you gave. It can be done. But that's why it's so important that Hunter or whoever the athletic director is at the time does it and makes that hire like that, because boy, it can go the other way. If you miss on a coach, it can go the other way. As fast as it went great for Indiana, it can go terrible, from bad to terrible to worse under the wrong coach. So you've got to get the right one. And but I do think he needs experience, preferably some, and if not in the SEC, that's fine. I mean, there's coaches that have not coached the SEC. Lane had to. I started to say Lane, but he had coached at Tennessee. Okay, but there are coaches. We could go over it, but I'll quit throwing out names when looking like an idiot when I say Lane. But no, there are coaches. But what I'm saying is there's guys, that come from those smaller schools that do well. Some don't. But that's why it's so important that the athletic director, the board of trustees, everybody, the president of the university, everybody whoever's going to be the final say, or if it's a committee, do it, make sure it's the right one, because this is more important than ever, man. And the coach at Tulane has been mentioned some. I tell you, they could use the Vanderbilt program as a model, because they don't have. I know Vanderbilt's not flowing in NIL, and they're undefeated right now. And they've gone from being a laughing stock of the SEC to being one of the programs that's highly right now. They're not in Indiana where they're playing the playoffs, but still they're doing pretty darn well for Indiana. I mean, for Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And so I mean, stuff like that. But I think it's something like that, Evan. Just get somebody that you feel like can embrace NIL, not oppose it. Because if you get somebody that's against it or fighting it, look, for right now, it's here to stay. In some form of it's probably always going to be here to stay. So you need to embrace it, adapt to the changes, and somebody's able, not just willing, but able to adapt to the changes that exist in college football. Because it's not the same as it was when Sam was hired. Mm-hmm. That's just 5 or 6 years ago. It's not the same as it was then, Evan. So it changes, man, and it has really changed. So I think they've really got to be careful. This may be the most important hire. I mean, Calipari, John was a big hire for basketball, but this may be about as big a hire as they've ever had for football. And I mean, maybe that's overstating it because they've had some loopholes, great coaches, Ken Hatfield, Houston Nutt, Bobby Petrino, and maybe it is Bobby. Yeah. Maybe it is. I hope it is. I like Bobby. I always like Bobby. So I mean, I thought he should have got to stay the first time, but I understood all the reasoning, and I won't get into that. We know that.
Yeah.
but whoever it is, they've got to be able to adapt and they've got to be able to win. And of course, they've got to win. That's the bottom line. You can graduate. The only time graduation rates come up is when you're losing. If you're not graduating your player, Nolan Richardson, they raised Cain at him about not graduating his players. Then when he started graduating them, he was losing and they wanted to fire him. So that's kind of hypocritical as graduating. Because when he was winning national championships, probably half of them were, 90% of them weren't graduating, but they were winning. I know they use that, but the thing about it is, Evan, it's just he's got to win. And look, when you're getting paid what those coaches are getting paid, all of them, they should win because that's what you're getting paid to do.
Right.
I know you're getting paid to graduate players. You're getting paid to see they get an education better, but bottom line is you better be winning when you're doing that.
Yeah, the goal of any, I think, football program in a Power 4 conference is to win football games. Otis, let's have some fun before we wrap up. Let's throw out some coaching names. Let's see what names you got. Who do you got really early on? Again, we're like an hour and a half after Sam Pittman gets fired, so this might be off the gut. Who would you like to see? Who are some of the names outside of Bobby Petrino that you could see that Arkansas fans won't be mad about becoming the next head coach at the university?
Well, I mean, I think I don't think people would embrace Jimbo Fisher. I don't think they would. There's a guy that had success in college football and had not so much success today. John Gruden is a name that you can't have a coaching search without throwing out the name John Gruden. I mean, there is no coaching search. I don't care if you're talking about the University of Alaska. It's John Gruden's going to be the next coach. That's just the way. Folks. That's just the way this stuff works. Yeah. John Gruden's got. So I've got to mention John Gruden, but people. I don't. Georgia defensive coordinator's been mentioned. The guy's a good one. Mm-hmm. But there again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, though. I really think it needs to be somebody that's a proven head coach. Now, Gruden has never coached college or never been a head coach, so I guess he's not so much proven, but he is a name coach. I think he's a name coach that could overcome a lot of the stuff about not having experience. I'm not saying he'll be the coach. I doubt he will be. But I don't think you can have a coaching search without mentioning him. But the coach at Tulane, I believe it's his name, Coach Summerall.
Yep, John Summerall.
Yeah, he's a guy that I know. I've talked to some people that really like him, that like the program.
Yeah.
I don't think the Memphis coach would be, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job at Memphis.
I was going to say, he knows how to beat Arkansas, too.
Yeah. So there's a name, the guy at Memphis, the guy at Tulane. I don't remember the name of South Florida coach, but I know some people I've talked to recently have mentioned him, the South Florida coach,
Yeah.
So I don't know, just names like that. North Carolina went off the target and hired Bill Belichick. So Arkansas could do something like that. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, make a flashy hire like that. Will it work out? I don't know. But so there's a lot of ways they can go. But I think at the bottom line is I do think they need to make somewhat of a splashy hire, but I do think they need to get someone who's experienced some and been a head coach.
Yeah.
And, so I guess winning the Super Bowl would qualify Gruden as being a proven head coach, even though he hasn't been a college head coach. But, could he recruit? I think so, but I don't know. But those are names then they may pull in someone completely off the wire. I don't think, Vanderbilt coach would be a great hire if that wasn't his dream job over there.
The other name I'll throw in is SMU's Rhett Lashley. That's been thrown out a lot. He's a Springdale guy, has ties to the state. That's one name that I want to throw in. And I know, we'll throw in Curt Cignetti too. Can you pull him away from Indiana? I think Arkansas fans would be happy. Hoosier fans like myself.
Well, I would hope they'd be happy. I hope they'd be happy.
Exactly. The guy,
Rhett, I know Rhett. I actually covered Rhett when he was a recruit. I covered Rhett. So I'm sorry. I was going to mention him because obviously he's been a lot of topics I've talked about. So he was one I just slipped my mind here. But my mind's been spinning with phone. My phone started blowing up as soon as
Otis, it is that kind of day. That is going to do it for the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. For Otis Kirk, I'm Evan Gamico. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.